When I opened my eyes that night, the world was burning dirty first. I thought it was a dream, the kind that wakes you in sweat and confusion. But the smell was too real. Acrid smoke filled my lungs, and the heat on my face wasn't from any nightmare. Flames were dancing on the curtains, crawling up the walls like hungry serpents. My little cottage, the place I'd called home for 36 years, was alive in fire. That I remember stumbling through the smoke, coughing, grabbing what I could. A framed photograph of my husband from our wedding day, the small box of jewelry I'd saved from my mother, and the old shawl my son had bought me when he was still in college. Everything else, it was too late. The fire crackled with cruel laughter as I escaped barefoot into the freezing night. The firefighters came, but they came too late. By dawn, all that remained was black ash and silence. My home, every corner where memory lived, was gone. When they asked if I had somewhere to go, I said yes. I thought of my son, David. He lived just 20 minutes away, in a beautiful suburban house. He had a wife, 2 children, and a career that made me proud every time I looked at him. Yes, I told the officer softly. My son will take me in. I sat in the back of the ambulance, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of disinfectant, and I thought about how he would react. Maybe he'd rush to me, eyes wide in concern, arms open to hold me as if I were still his mother, still the woman who once carried him through fevers and heartbreaks. Maybe his children would hug me too, asking if Grandma was okay. But what awaited me wasn't that. When I arrived at his doorstep later that morning, I was still shivering. My hair smelled like smoke. My hands were trembling from exhaustion. The doorbell chimed and I heard voices inside. Laughter, the sound of breakfast plates, children running. It sounded like life itself, full and untouched by tragedy. For a moment I smiled. At least someone I loved was safe and happy. David opened the door. For a moment his expression froze. Then came confusion, surprise, and something else, hesitation. "Mom," he said. "What happened to you?" "My house." I tried to smile, but my lips trembled. "There was a fire last night. Everything's gone. I didn't know where else to go." He blinked, looking over his shoulder as if worried someone might hear. Then he called softly, "Emily." His wife appeared, her hair tied neatly, a robe around her shoulders. She frowned when she saw me. "Oh my God," she said. "What happened?" "I just told him," I said quietly. "The fire took everything." David scratched the back of his neck. That's terrible, Mom." His tone was uncertain, cautious. "Are you okay? Were you hurt?" "I'm fine. Just shaken." I smiled weakly. I didn't know where else to go. I hoped I could stay with you all for a while, just until I get back on my feet. There was silence. A long, uncomfortable silence. Emily looked at David, her eyes narrowing slightly. A silent conversation I wasn't meant to hear. "Of course," she finally said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course you can stay for a few days. We'll figure something out." I didn't notice the way David exhaled with relief when she said, "A few days." I didn't notice the way her tone trembled. Not with empathy, but with tension. They showed me to the guest room upstairs. It smelled faintly of air freshener and unfamiliar sheets. On the nightstand was a lamp shaped like a flower, delicate, perfect. Everything about their home was perfect. Organized. Modern. And I felt like a relic from another time. A soot-covered ghost haunting their clean white walls. For the first 2 days everyone was kind. The children, Sarah and Leo, were curious. "Grandma, did your house really burn?" they asked, wide-eyed. I nodded, telling them it was okay, that things could be replaced. I tried to smile when Emily brought me tea, though she always seemed in a hurry to leave the room. But by the 3rd day, I began to notice things, the whispers behind closed doors. The sudden silences when I entered the kitchen. The way Emily's eyes darted toward my laundry bag when it sat near the washing machine. "Mom, maybe we should take your clothes to the laundromat," she said once. "You know, the smoke smell. It's hard to get out." I understood what she meant, though she didn't say it aloud. I was a contamination, a reminder of disaster in a home built on order. One evening, I overheard them talking in the living room while I stood on the stairs, hidden in the shadows. "She can't stay forever, David," Emily said quietly. "I know," he replied. "But what do you want me to do? She's my mother." "I understand that," she said sharply. "But this isn't a retirement home. We have our routines, the kids' school, my work schedule. She needs help, real help. Maybe she can go to one of those senior living places. Just for a while." "Emily, I'm serious," she continued. "She's not young anymore. She needs support. And honestly, I don't think she feels comfortable here either." That night, I cried silently into my pillow. Not because of what she said, but because she was right. I didn't feel comfortable. I felt like an intruder in my own family's life. The next morning, David sat across from me at the breakfast table. He didn't meet my eyes. "Mom," he began, "Emily and I were talking. We think it might be better if we find you a place where you can get proper care. You know, while the insurance sorts things out." "Proper care," I repeated. "David, I'm not sick." He sighed. "I know, but it's just temporary. There's a senior residence not far from here. It's nice, they have activities, meals, nurses. You'd be comfortable there." I looked at him, my son, the boy who once cried when I left him at kindergarten, who used to bring me flowers from the garden. Now he couldn't even look at me. "David," I whispered, "do you really want me to go?" He hesitated, and that hesitation was my answer. Later that day, he drove me to the residence. It was clean and bright, with cheerful staff and soft music playing in the background. They smiled warmly, handed me papers to sign, and told me about the activities: bingo nights, movie screenings, yoga classes. I nodded politely through it all. David helped me carry my small suitcase into the room. He hugged me briefly, awkwardly. "You'll be okay here, Mom," he said. "Just until things settle down. I'll visit soon." I nodded even though my throat was tight. "Of course, dear. Don't worry about me." When he left, I stood by the window and watched his car drive away until it disappeared around the corner. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly alone. Days turned into weeks. He didn't visit. Once I received a short text. "Hey Mom, how are you? Been super busy with work. We'll come by soon." He didn't. Emily sent a message once too. "Hope you're comfortable there. Kids say hi." I wasn't angry. I told myself I understood. Life moves fast. People get busy. But sometimes, late at night, I'd hold the old shawl, the one he bought me years ago, and I'd wonder if love really fades that quietly. One evening, one of the nurses, Linda, sat beside me in the common room. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "Is everything all right?" I smiled faintly. "Everything's fine. I'm just thinking." "About your son?" I looked at her, surprised. She smiled softly. "You mention him a lot," she said. "You must miss him." He whispered. "He used to be my world." She nodded. "You still are his world, you know. Some people just don't know how to show it." I wanted to believe her, but deep down I wasn't sure. Months passed. Winter came. I found peace in small things: the sound of rain against the window, the laughter of other residents, the warmth of the staff who treated me kindly. Yet a part of me stayed empty, like an old house missing its walls. Then one day I got sick. A cold, the doctors said. Nothing serious. But it worsened quickly. My breathing became shallow, my energy drained. I was moved to a small room near the nurses' station so they could monitor me. I asked Linda if she could call David. "Just tell him I'd like to see him," I said softly. "Please." She nodded and made the call. But he didn't come that day. Nor the next. When she called again, Emily answered. "We're a bit tied up right now," she said. "Tell her we'll visit next weekend." Next weekend never came. On the night I felt my strength fading, I held the photograph of my husband, the only thing I'd saved from the fire. "I'm coming home," I whispered to it, "where there's warmth again." The next morning, Linda found me asleep with a smile on my face when David finally came, 2 days later. He stood in the small, quiet room, looking down at the bed that no longer held his mother. He didn't cry at first. He just stared, hands trembling. Then his eyes fell on the shawl folded neatly beside the pillow, and something inside him broke. He sat down and sobbed, his voice echoing in the empty room. Linda stood at the door, her eyes glistening. "She waited for you," she said softly. "She asked about you until the very end." David nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he whispered. "I thought she'd be happier here." "She would have been happier with you," Linda said gently. "Love doesn't need comfort. It just needs presence." At her funeral, there were only a few people: the staff, a few residents, and David's family. Emily stood quietly, holding the children's hands. Sarah, the little girl, asked, "Daddy, why is Grandma sleeping?" David couldn't answer. He looked at the small framed photo on the casket. His mother smiling in front of her old house, her arms open wide. That house was gone, but so was the warmth that once made his world feel safe. That night, he drove to the place where her house had stood. Only a patch of blackened ground remained. He parked his car and sat there for a long time, the wind whispering through the trees, and for the first time, he understood the silence his mother had carried, the quiet pain of being forgotten by the one she loved most.